Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Wisdom Wednesday, y'all, and I am just so happy to be here with you all. My name is Dr. Juanita Mercer. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Heart Leader here at Lead My Heart, Executive Coaching and Consulting, and I am just super excited to be here with you this morning. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. I do have a lisp. I mentioned this in yesterday's episode. I am starting treatments again for aligners. So this is only like day 3. And I am over pronunciating my words so I can be as clear as possible. But that's why, because I am wearing aligners. So please bear with me. We're going to have an amazing episode. Okay. Other couple of things. My internet is going in and out. Don't know why. I also look like I need to get my presentation back uploaded. Don't know why. This is the kind of morning we're having. But you know what? It's all right. How are y'all doing? Are y'all doing great? Are you doing well? Are you thriving this morning, or are you surviving? Put that in the chat. Let me know. Are you thriving this morning, or are you surviving? And you know what? Either one is okay. You showed up today. You showed up with intent today, and I'm super proud of you. And it's Wisdom Wednesday, and you're here. You're seeking wisdom. You're seeking understanding, and pat yourself on the back for that. Okay, that you're here and doing that. You know what I want you to do? There are a couple of things I want you to do as we're getting started here. Number one, I want you to heart this stream, and then I want you to share it on your timeline. Share it so other people can be blessed by this episode as well. Share it where? Share it on your timeline, share it in a group that you might be in. You can even copy the link to this stream and share it in a text message or an email. Okay, you can do that too. But then also, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I want you to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell. Ring that bell so you don't miss any new content that is being dropped, okay? Why? Because this is to help you be everything that God has called you to be an amazing, effective leader, a heart leader. Okay. And as heart leaders, not only do we recognize that we are spiritual leaders because we lead spiritual beings, but we also know it's a God thing. It is truly a God ordained thing that He has called us to be leaders, to be a part of what He's doing, to lead His people, to cast vision. And that's something that as heart leaders, we do not take for granted. Okay. So I'm super excited that, again, you're here with me this morning. And you know what? We're going to get started. But before I get started, I want to give a shout out to my executive assistant, Jemija, who is absolutely amazing. I love you. I thank you. And I'm just so excited that you're on this journey with me. So kudos to you. All right, here we go. Again, this is episode number 2, and we're talking about grace and meritocracies, okay? There we go. Getting all set up here. All right, looks like my signal is just a little weaker, but I'm praying right now that we're going to get through this smoothly, okay? Wishing for the best. So, grace and meritocracies. Let's first recap what we talked about yesterday, which is what is grace, okay? Before we begin talking about what is grace and a meritocracy, first, what is grace? And we understand that first and foremost, grace is free and grace is unmerited. What do I mean by that? Grace costs you nothing. Okay, it's only people who want to manipulate you and use you that make you think that the grace they extend towards you costs you something or costs them something, and it doesn't. Grace is free. And if we don't understand that, if we're not applying that, then what we really are demonstrating is not grace at all. It might be manipulation. Yeah. It might be trickery, but it's not grace. Okay, not the grace from God. And so we have to be honest with ourselves about our intent with this thing. But grace is also unmerited. No one has to earn it. No one has to earn it. As a matter of fact, the only way we earn grace is by being imperfect. Isn't that good news? That as long as you're imperfect, you've earned it. Because perfect people don't need grace. It's those of us who make mistakes. It's those who fall short. It's those of us who are weak. Those of us who are broken. Those of us who don't have it all yet, don't get it all yet. We aren't there yet. We deserve grace. We're worthy of it. And I'm so grateful for that is the only qualification for any of us to receive grace, is to just be imperfect. And so we see grace, the same grace that God has entrusted us with, the same grace that he's called us to be stewards of, manifested, one, in our salvation, thank you, Lord, but also in his continuous blessings, the blessings that come again and again and again and again and again, just because he's good. And so I'm so grateful for that. Are you grateful? If you're grateful for the free and unmerited grace of God, I want you to put grateful in the comment section. Okay? Say, I'm grateful. But then, so now we're talking about today, grace and meritocracies. Okay, wait a minute. I just said that grace is unmerited, but then we have these systems, these organizations where everyone is expected to get only what they earn. Okay. So in meritocracies, this is where people are rewarded based on their skills, abilities, and hard work. It's based on what you are demonstrating. Okay. And individuals are expected to earn their rewards. What type of rewards? Positions, promotions, goods, salaries, blessings, whatever that looks like, okay? Whatever you would consider a blessing in your life. And these meritocracies is expected that because of your skills, abilities, and hard work, what you have demonstrated, what you have done warrants, has earned you the reward, okay? Because of your own effort and no one else's. So it's putting all the responsibility of getting something on that person versus what we can give freely. That's important to know. So here's 4 ways to know. Are you leading a meritocracy? Are you? In your organization, your business, your church? Are you leading a meritocracy? Here's how you know. Number 1, that there's a strong emphasis on individual achievement and performance with regards to promotions based on objective measures of success. Okay? Not what the individual is capable of doing, but simply because this is what we say the measure is, this is what we say the standard is, and if you don't meet it, you're not doing it. If you don't meet it, you're not performing at the way we want you to. If you don't meet it, you're not contributing. So that's one way to know if you're leading a meritocracy. Another way is to know is there a competitive environment with employees constantly striving to outdo one another, to outperform one another, to be on, and before one another? That's how you know that it's more about that competition and not coming together. Another way you know that you're leading a meritocracy is that there's a little tolerance for mistakes or failure. And individuals are often punished or excluded for not meeting expectations. Come on, we've seen this. It may not be fully a meritocracy, but maybe it was just a meritocracy for that person, for that team member, for that person you don't like. I said it. Yeah, let's be real here. Because here at Lead My Heart, we deal with matters of the heart regarding leadership. And the matter of the fact is, you don't like everybody. But God didn't ask if you liked everybody. He's called you to love everybody. And as a leader, you have a responsibility to lead, to love, educate, affirm, and deliver for every person entrusted to your leadership, whether you like them or not. So we have to deal with that. But then you also might be leading a meritocracy if there's a lack of emphasis on teamwork or collaboration. Everyone's working in silos, okay, where individuals are more concerned about their own success and the success of the organization as a whole. Organization, back burner. Me, first. And you walk around and you hear people talking that way. Look, I got to do me. I got to take care of me. I got to make sure I'm good. I got to make sure I'm moving up. I'm being promoted. I'm moving forward. Why? Because there's a lack of emphasis on mission, purpose, and vision within the organization. People haven't bought into it, which is, again, a symptom of poor leadership, poor motivation in the organization, a lack of purpose-driven leadership within the organization, okay? And so we have to be aware of these things. Now, what if you're saying, well, it's just one of them, not all four? You still have a problem. You still have a problem. Because I can't think of any of these that are okay, that aren't impacting your productivity, that aren't impacting your efficiency, that aren't impacting organizational culture in a way that it separates and isolates people rather than bring them together. And we're stronger together, period. We're stronger together, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's just one. It's the problem that we have to address. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, for it is by grace. What? It's by grace that you have been saved through faith. Thank you, Lord. And this is not from yourself. What I mentioned yesterday, that grace is not of humans. We wouldn't go for it. That's not something we naturally want to do. We don't naturally want to overlook things and be graceful and give people what they haven't earned. That really isn't our nature. That's how we know that it is a gift from God and not on our own. But we've been saved by grace, not by works, so that no one can boast. I'm so grateful that the kingdom of God is not a meritocracy. Anyone else grateful? Are you grateful that the kingdom of God is not a meritocracy? That based on what you did yesterday, you have grace for today, or based on what you do today, you wouldn't have grace for tomorrow? So then why do we bring that to the workplace? If we have been so forgiven, if we have been so pardoned, if we're not there yet, and we know that we're not there yet, we know that we don't do all that we're supposed to do. We know that we make mistakes. We know that our intentions always what they should be. Why do we look at other people and say, yeah, I don't want that, but that's what I expect from you. That's what I need from you. It's not okay. So we have to do better. And this is the issue with regards to meritocracy, is that there's no balance. There's no balance. And you might be saying, what do you mean there's no balance? Well, When we're talking about the characteristics of a meritocracy, it was a lot of emphasis on individual, not so much the organization. It was a lot of emphasis on competition. Okay, so let's look at these different nuances that causes that imbalance in meritocracies because we want people to earn everything. These nuances include individual versus team. See, the meritocracy says it's going to be all about you and what you can do, whether you contribute or not. And when you can't contribute anymore, you got to go. Whereas Grace steps in and says, the weight isn't just on you. You can't do this all yourself. We have to do it as a team. Because all of us have weaknesses, but also all of us have strengths. So when we bring them together, we have the ability to do amazing things because it's not all of one person. The meritocracy says, let's focus on competition. Yeah, let's make people, compete against each other and capitalize on the lack of efficacy that people have towards themselves. Let's what's the word I'm looking for? Let's play with that. Let's play with people's identity. Let's play with people's self-esteem and put them against each other rather than emphasizing community. And so Grace steps in and says, yeah, competition may be good every now and then. But what we really should be embracing here is community. Community. Meritocracy says it's all about your contribution. Okay? And if you can't contribute, what we need you to contribute, this isn't the place for you. Whereas Grace steps in and says, okay, that's great. Yeah, we want people to contribute. We even want people to kind of build their own personal brand in a way and demonstrate what they're great at. But the emphasis is going to be more so on collaboration, knowing that we all have something wonderful to contribute. How can we bring those contributions together in a way that we build creativity through collaboration? Meritocracy says it's all about performance. But Grace steps in and says, yeah, but you know what? It's also got to be about our people. That they feel nurtured here, that they feel safe here, that they feel that they can thrive here, that they're not just coming to work, but they're coming to exercise and fulfill a purpose. Meritocracy says it's just about the results. Hey, we got to make things happen. But Grace steps in and says, yeah, but you know what? You know how we're going to get the results? Through relationship. Because that's what leadership is all about. Meritocracy says everything has to be fair. Just equal. Justice. Yeah. But Grace steps in and says, but you know how we're going to make sure everything is fair? By being flexible. By taking each situation as something unique that we can learn about a person, about a principle, and demonstrate our values in this thing. Meritocracy says it has to all be equal. No give and take here. Everyone gets the same thing, but Grace steps in and says, that don't work for everybody. This person needs more than what this person has over here to be able to perform equally because of their background, maybe because of things that they've had to deal with and overcome. It's not equal. Equity is what we're looking for. And so that's how Grace brings balance, that necessary balance in meritocracies. How do we do this even greater? We have to foster a culture of inclusion and diversity. For you DIE professionals out there, you see this, you understand this in the most powerful way, that if we don't foster that culture of seeing people. And I talked about yesterday how grace allows us to really see people. And when I say that, I always think about Avatar, the first movie, and how she said, I see you. That was what they said among their people. I see you, meaning I just don't see what you look like, but I see your spirit. I see who you are, all that you are. I see your heart. I see what you need. I see what you've overcome. I see what you have to contribute. I see your value and your worthiness. And when we do that inclusion and diversity right, that leads to equity. And that's what we need in our organizations. Giving people what they need to be successful. Not just handing out, $100 bill to everybody, but saying, gosh, you know what? That $100 bill is good for you, but $100 bill is not going to get you where you need to be. You need 500, Also, recognize and value the contributions of all employees, even when it's not at the level that you think it should be. Why? Now, I'm not talking about patting everybody on the back and giving everyone a trophy. I'm not talking about calling everyone a winner. But what I am talking about is realizing that there's still something great that that person is doing that everyone else at the team can learn. Maybe they're not hitting the metrics, but maybe they're really good at encouraging their teammates. Gosh, you know what? I'm going to give kudos to this person for knowing how to encourage and inspire us on the daily and having a positive attitude. Y'all, we can learn something from him. We can learn something from her. We can all learn to do that better. And so that's how we can recognize and value every contribution. Encourage empathy, compassion, and forgiveness. Empathy. How do we get empathy? You have to have been there and done that. So what does that look like in an organization when you can't go home with people? Well, okay. You know what I mean? You can't always walk fully in their shoes, but what you can do is take an hour to sit with them at their desk to get an idea of what their day looks like. You can have lunch with them and say, gosh, tell me, what's today? How's today been for you? What kind of challenges have you had? What was your approach? You can do that. And by taking the time to understand what people's experiences are like, you can build your empathy. Compassion, community, coming together, that partnership, passion, desire, heart, intent, inspiration, motivation. How do you bring that together? And then forgiveness, the ability to separate people from their mistakes and to see them for who they are and say, I forgive you. Not that what you did was okay, but I know that you are not your mistake and that you still have so much more to offer than the thing that you did wrong. And then understanding that grace is also a power. And why do I mention this? Because in meritocracies, what we're really doing by making sure that everyone earns what they get is really controlling the distribution of power, are we not? Yeah, that's really what we're doing. We're controlling the distribution of power. But what we have to understand is that grace is also a power. My mission here at Lead My Heart is to equip executives and executive teams to live and lead with purpose, passion, and power. What is power? It's your strengths. And I teach that grace is also a power. The grace that not only God extends to us, but the grace that we extend to other people. The grace to show up. The grace to continue to have a positive attitude in the midst of challenging circumstances. The grace to have the audacity to look past the problems before us and the many challenges and the heartbreaks that we deal with every single day, to have the audacity to look past that and still see hope, to still see a chance to turn things around. Y'all, that's power. And so I'm praying that every single one of you is walking in that power today. So I want to go to the word. Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16 offers a really great example of helping us to understand, or to, should I say, assess, identify whether we are leading a meritocracy, or is it us who has a meritocratic mindset or lens. Maybe it's not the organization and the culture that's the issue. Maybe it's just us and our mindset. Let's be honest. Maybe we don't have a meritocratic organization. But maybe we do have a meritocratic lens by the way we look at situations, certain departments, certain initiatives, certain people. Okay? So here we go. Starting with verse 1, it says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard." Now, I do want to stop here and say that the notation that I have for the NIV version translation says that a denarius was a typical daily wage. Typical. Nothing crazy, nothing weird about it. People who worked in vineyards, that was a pretty common understanding that this was a day's wage. Okay? So it says, he said, continue in verse 3, about 9 in the morning, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go and work in my vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about noon, and about 3 in the afternoon, did the same thing. In the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day and day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." Okay, all right. I love his initiative. I love this landowner's like zeal to go out and find workers. Okay, I love it. We can take notes on that. When evening came, the landowner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first." The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those who were hired first, So when those came who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. Sound familiar? That's what we do. "These who were hired last worked only 1 hour," they said, "and you have made them equal to us who have of the work and the heat of the day." But he answered one of them, But he answered one of them, "I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money?" And this is what gets me, y'all. Listen to what he says next. "Or are you envious because I am generous?" So the last will be first and the first will be last. Let me go back and ask that question again. Or are you envious because I am generous? When it comes to grace and leadership, are you envious because people are generous? Because people care? Because people are forgiving? Because people are patient? Because people are kind? Because people exhibit self-control against something that otherwise you feel like they should have lost their lid about? Does that bother you? And if it does, why? Why does it bother you? Are you that landowner who's like, look, I want to give people what they need. I want to give people what they earn. It doesn't have to be fair all the time, but they've earned it. And in this case of grace, they've earned it simply because they were imperfect. Or are you the worker saying, yeah, you've given me, what I've earned, what I deserve, but I don't want to see other people get that. I want things to be equal, but not equitable. Mm. And when we say we want things to be equal and not equitable, what we really want to say is, I don't care what other people need. I don't care what's going to help other people move forward. They just need to learn learn how to use what we give them. If you're the worker, if you exhibit that kind of attitude in any situation in your leadership, I'm going to encourage you to scan the QR code in the corner, of this screen and book a free partnership call with me so that we can talk about what coaching services will be best for you so that we can get to the bottom of your meritocratic mindset or lens and other cognitive distortions that you may have that is hindering your leadership. We have to. We have to get to the bottom of it because it's not just hindering your organization and the people around you and your team, but it's hindering you as well. Okay? We have to deal with that matter of the heart so that you can be everything that God has called you to be and not to allow this type of mindset to hinder your growth and your impact as a leader. We have to remember, and I mentioned this yesterday, and I want to leave this with us today in 1 Peter 4:10 that says, each of you should use whatever gift you've received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. That's who we are. We are stewards of God's grace. Let's not forget that. And let's not let a meritocratic lens or mindset hinder our ability, hinder what God has entrusted us with, and that is his grace. Okay? So we're at the end of this episode. What were the key takeaways that I want you to have here? Number one, that grace is free and unmerited. It costs you nothing. And don't let anyone make you think it costs you something that doesn't. You're not indebted to anyone because they extend grace. And it's unmerited. You already meet the qualification of being worthy of grace, and that is you are imperfect. Number two, I want you to leave with understanding that meritocracies demand that people earn everything they get. And it's the time for you to assess, are you leading one? And if so, what are you doing about it? Next, I want you to understand that grace helps establish balance in the unbalanced meritocracies that we may work in, that we may serve in. And so how are you going to use grace and leadership to bring balance to the meritocracy? I also want you to leave understanding that grace is a power. It is a strength. It's an ability. It's a major capacity that you have. And I want you to walk in it and use it every single day. I also want you to leave with understanding that leaders must be aware of their meritocratic mindset or lens, the way that you see things. Address it and those other cognitive distortions via coaching. That's what I'm here for. Okay, I'm here to coach you through and to address those matters of the heart that are not only hindering you personally, but also professionally. And then I also just want you to remember that you are a steward of God's grace. You are a manager, you are an overseer, you are a keeper of God's grace. How well are you doing that? If you were to sit down with God today and He give you a performance evaluation on how you have demonstrated and been a steward of grace in your leadership, how you lead others, followership, how others lead you, but also heartpreneurship, how you lead yourself, what would your score be? And I would ask you, like Paul said, he said, judge yourself first, lest you be judged. Assess yourself, okay? Assess yourself on where you are in exhibiting and demonstrating grace in your leadership in those different areas, okay? And so, speaking of heartpreneurship and using grace in our own leadership towards ourselves, okay, and personal leadership, that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. And so, I invite you to come back and watch Grace and Leadership, episode 3, where we talk about grace for you. Grace for you and your mental health at work. Such an important topic. It is Mental Health Awareness Month as well. So this is bringing it in right to the heart of the things that we're discussing in organizations this month. But you also have to realize this isn't just about grace towards others, but you also have to demonstrate grace towards yourself, okay? So let me know, what do you think about this episode? Comment. Has this been a blessing to you? Has it given you some things to think about, some things to assess, and to ask yourself now, what are you going to do about it? What steps are you going to take next to make sure that you're bringing balance to the meritocracy? Okay. Again, you all, my name is Dr. Juanita Mercer. I'm the founder, CEO, and Chief Heart Leader at Lead My Heart Executive Coaching and Consulting. Not only do we work with individuals who are leaders and wanting to enhance their leadership and learn how to live and lead with purpose, passion, and power, but we also come out to organizations, do motivational speaking, instructional speaking as well. And I say come out, we'll come out in person, but also I will do a Zoom with you and your team as well, if that is convenient for you. But let's deal with matters of the heart. I encourage you to book a free partnership call, only 15 minutes of your time. That's it. For me to tell you more about Lead My Heart and for you to tell me what your problem is. And then I come back with, well, this is how we can help you. Okay. And that's the 15 minutes. All right. I would love to work with you. I would love to partner with you in achieving your goals. Okay. So, y'all, that's it for today. I pray again that it's been a blessing to you and that you leave this episode, this time, empowered. Okay, that you leave this episode with greater clarity as to what it is that God wants from you. And I pray that you leave this episode encouraged and believing with your whole heart that you have the capacity, the grace to do it. Okay. Y'all, as we leave here, remember that in everything you do and with everything you have, to love God and to love people. That is the greatest mandate. And we have a responsibility to do it not only in our personal life, but our professional lives too. I love you all, and I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.